Tom Hauser here with another midweek blessing. Hey, last week I talked about the need to be patient with one another and patient with ourselves because we're all works in progress. We're all under construction, as I think I mentioned, that we can't expect perfection, that we ought to just be patient while we work things out, while we figure things out. And that's true. I want to stick with the patience idea, but I want to add something to that this week, and that is it's good to be patient with yourself and with other people, but it's not good to be complacent, specifically with yourself. Let's not talk about everybody else right now. Let's talk about ourselves. Patience is a good thing. Complacency is not a good thing. Each of us have areas that we need to grow in. Things we need to do less of, things we need to do more of, ways we need to think differently and react differently and interact with people differently. Each of us has those, and they're different for each one of us. And if we're just too patient with ourselves, we'll just find ourselves saying, well, that's fine. I'm doing as best I can. I'll just be patient. I'll get to that later. Or people shouldn't expect so much of me. I shouldn't expect so much of myself. And we end up oftentimes just sitting still, not working on the things that we genuinely do need to work on to get better. You don't get stronger, you don't get healthier without working out, right? I mean, you need to do exercise. It's good for your heart to do exercise, good for your lungs, good for your muscles, good for your physical health. In a similar way, it's good to exercise and put effort into the spiritual side of our life. Let me read you just part of one of my favorite passages in the New Testament from Colossians chapter 3. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read just a few verses, and I'd like you to just pay attention to a word or a phrase that you think might stick out from these two passages. Something that maybe you need to stop doing or start doing. A place where your patience ought to be finished and you ought to not become complacent but move on to action. Here it is in Colossians chapter 3, starting first of all in verse 5. So put to death the sinful earthly things lurking within you. Have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy, for a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. Because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. You used to do these things when your life was still part of this world, but now is the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. Don't lie to each other, for you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all of its wicked deeds. And then down in verse 12, let me read a little bit from there. Since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. And above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you were called to live in peace and always be thankful. This is just one of many places in the New Testament that talks about putting off things that don't make sense for the Christian and putting on the things that do make sense for the Christian. All this requires effort. It requires activity. It requires movement. It requires both patience with yourself, yes, but also perseverance, pushing towards a goal, making some progress in places where you know you need to make progress. So as you look through that list, consider maybe one of the things that you know you need to work on doing less of. And there's probably something that you need to work on doing more of. Don't be too patient with yourself. Don't be discouraged either, but don't be complacent. Take a next step. Try the next thing. Ask for help. When you fail, it's okay. Get back up and try again. To try and fail is not a sin, but not trying at all very well might be. So let's be patient with one another and with ourselves, but let's also be persistent and never become complacent. Till next time, peace, friends.